as of recently, I can understand that the channel has been kind of all over the place, with the reopening of the Discord server, my boxing content, and also my debate content. It may be hard to keep track of what the main theme of the channel is, and to be honest, I don't even know myself. But today I would like to be talking about a manga series that has actually greatly impacted not only my philosophy on life, but my philosophy on fighting. Because, as you guys probably know at this point, I am a boxer myself. So today we're going to be talking about Vagabond by Takehiko Inoue. It is not merely a story of swords and warriors, it tells a profound exploration of Zen Buddhism. A specific type of Zen Buddhism developed in the early 1600s in Japan called Dokado, written by Miyamoto Musashi himself. Musashi's path is symbolic of the Zen concept of Satori, or sudden enlightenment. In his early battles, Musashi fights with fear of physical strength driven by ego, a desire to prove himself, in which only reflects his initial ignorance. A quote by Denshichiro on chapter 24, Ignorance, he stated to be ignorant as a child with no basis in reality. However, as Musashi delves deeper into Zen philosophy, a transformation occurs of understanding and power, the dissolution of ego, allowing him to act in harmony with the universe. A quote that I see that I think epitomizes this concept is, "My sword is one of heaven and earth." I believe this represents the Buddhist ideology of oneness in all things are connected. It shows that his swordsman skills not only are not distracted by his environment or reality, or the duality of his situation, but he's not distracted by his ego, he's not distracted by his emotions, his thoughts. This ideology brings into consideration another philosophy known as Mushin no Shin, mind of no mind. As Musashi practices meditation and introspection, his mind becomes still and he begins to act without conscious thought. His body responds with almost an instinctual precision. This can be seen in his second fight against Inshun. He was too calm. He was so calm, in fact, it gave him extrasensory perceptions. This allowing him to truly see. He was able to, even in the dark, to see the veins in the leaves in the background, far away from him. He was able to fully see all of Inshun's attacks, without being preoccupied on any individual aspect, over-focusing, over-analyzing, being caught up in his mind. A quote by Takuan Soho, "One who focuses on a single leaf will miss the tree. One who focuses on a single tree will miss the entire forest." A good juxtaposition to make is by comparing the first fight and the second fight. The first fight perfectly illustrates the concept of fear in fighting. Musashi was so constricted and so distracted by what was going on, by Inshun's stance, by his posture, that he was completely outgunned and outmatched. A statement by Gion Toji, a Yoshioka disciple, described that he was too scared, he had no power behind his sword, and that fearlessness was his only strength. This is why I believe the fight ended the way it did in Musashi running away. Not that he was cowardly, it's that he never experienced true fear. And as a statement later said by Itosai, "Those who are numb against fear are the first to die." The reason why I emphasize fear because it does lead into my next subject, the psychology of fighting. The famous boxing coach, the Hall of Fame boxing coach, Cus D'Amato, known for coaching Mike Tyson and formerly Floyd Patterson, two heavyweight champions of the world, had a very interesting take on fear and its necessity in fighting.
The lecture of fear goes something like this. All people are afraid. Being afraid is a very normal, healthy thing. If an individual were not afraid, I would have to send them to a psychiatrist to find out what was wrong. Nature gave us fear in order to survive. And of course, fear is our best friend. Without fear, we would all die. We'd do something foolish or stupid which would cause our death or being sick. Fear is something which has to be controlled. I always compare it to fire. Fear, like fire, must be controlled. And once it gets out of control, like fire, it can destroy everything around, not only the individual, but everything around. But once you control fear like fire, you could make it work for it. Without fire, we wouldn't have the civilization we now recognize. The fighter who controls the sphere can now function in a manner far over and beyond anything he was capable of before. Fear is your friend, and nature gave us fear in order for us to survive. And I give the example of the deer crossing an open field and coming to the forest, and instinct telling them danger is present in the trees, perhaps in the form of mountain lions. At that moment, the adrenal gland injects adrenaline into the bloodstream, the heart beats faster, enabling the deer to perform an extraordinary feat of agility, sufficient to get out of the immediate danger. Now, we, as human beings, in my opinion, retain these qualities, though they're somewhat dormant because we live in a civilized atmosphere. But nevertheless, faced with a situation that intuition tells us dangers is present, these natural assets that nature gave us to survive come to the surface. And if we don't panic, we maintain a discipline and a control over them, we can use them. And they not only will help us survive the particular incident, but continued success will give us a confidence that is so strong and a foundation so powerful that in time we can get to overcome almost anything.
Another clip that I think contextualizes this concept in a more literal sense would be Canelo Alvarez versus Jermall Charlo. In this fight, you can clearly see what a fighter who is not in control over his fear looks like. Getting more back on topic, I could talk about boxing all day. Musashi had to develop his spirituality and his mental strength in order to overcome his fear. His ability to stay calm and not fight with his emotions is what allowed him to transcend that level, and ultimately in 1 year surpass the likes of Denshichiro and Seijiro Yoshioka. After meeting the Yagyu Seki Shusai, Musashi had learned that true mastery comes from understanding that victory is found from within. Once again, we hear the quote, "My sword is that of heaven and earth." Again, I think this represents the duality of man being the individual versus the world. That is a common conception for most people. They recognize themselves as individuals. But the Buddhist recognizes them as one with the world. To drive home this concept, we can see that later when Musashi leaves the Yagyu estate, he steps on a nail because he considered himself too distracted, too caught up in his thoughts. He even says that Ine, or even Takuan, they themselves wouldn't have stepped on the nail and injured their foot, because they are so in tune with themselves and so in tune with the world around them and so connected that even if they aren't directly looking at it, they can still perceive the pressure the nail would cause on their foot before it would even pierce their skin. Now, this profound ability to be so in tune with their senses only comes from that connection between the internal and the external. The reconciliation that we are not separate from the world. We are not individual entities living inside a world. Later in Musashi's journey, after his battles with Denshichiro and Seijiro Yoshioka, during his fight with the 70 Yoshioka, we can see that he finally embodies truly the concept of Mushin no Shin, mind of no mind. We can see that he was effortlessly using his blade and his sword with no emotions. It was almost as if he was guided by an unseen force. His movements become fluid and spontaneous. This mental clarity enhances Musashi's mental capabilities. We see statements like, "Don't stop the flow," "Don't think." Being consumed by thoughts and emotions are what distract you in the heat of battle, in the heat of fights. He continued slicing through his opponents with a single stroke of his blade, guided not by purely skill, but by inner knowing, a connection to the very essence of life, transcending him far beyond any skill of a normal mortal man. What I mean by a mortal man, or a normal mortal man, is someone who is still deluded by ego, deluded by emotions, cannot see truly clearly, cannot truly see, because of these factors that are clouding his vision. That's what separates Musashi from the Yoshioka. And yeah, that's going to wrap this video up. Let me know what you guys think about this. This is kind of something new. I mean, I've done commentary type videos before. I've done philosophy commentary. I've done boxing commentary. I don't know if I've done any commentary on like narrative analysis, but I mean, it's always something I wanted to get into, so might as well try to combine all the three. You know, I try to combine all of my interests into one, you know, type of subject. If this type of content interests you guys, let me know, you know, or I can do more strictly boxing, more strictly philosophy, or we could do philosophy of fiction or philosophy of fighting. We can kind of mix and match, see what sticks. Yeah, anyways, subscribe, and yeah, peace out.